The truth that I have seen again and again and again, and yes, both in my own personal life and in the work that I feel so privileged to get to do with clients, is that we just need the safety of being met in our place of shame or fear, sometimes just by one person that you feel safe enough with to let that part of yourself be revealed and be met with safety, with connection, with humanity, with curiosity and support.
Welcome to How to Trust Yourself, the podcast for anyone who's done with the endless second guessing and ready to tune in to your inner guidance. I'm Anna Holtzman, and I get that feeling of trudging through life like you're wading through mud, trying to figure out which way to go. In my 20s, I spent more time asking what should I do with my life than writing about crushes or bad dates in my journal. I've tried on a lot of answers: architecture, publishing, editing reality TV for a decade, and finally landing on therapy and coaching, helping people like you connect with your purpose. But here's the thing I've learned through all those twists and turns. Trusting yourself is the key to moving forward, even when the path feels messy. So if you're ready to stop doubting yourself and start listening to your gut, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, dear listener. The other day, I was taking a walk. Something I do nearly every day is take a long walk. And I was listening to a message that a good friend of mine sent me, and she's a coach as well. So she asked me this great question, which was, she asked me what I find most fulfilling in my work. It's probably a question I've been asked many times before, but what dropped in for me at that particular moment was just so clear and immediate. And the answer that came to me was, I love when people tell me their secrets. That is possibly my most favorite part of my work. I love to be the holder of space, the person who makes the space feel safe for people to open up their secrets, their stories that they feel shame around, the parts of themselves that they fear might be unacceptable. And what it is that I love about this part of my work so much is that there's something so incredible that happens in the moment that someone allows a part of themselves that they have felt has been shrouded in shame, when they allow that part of themselves to surface and be witnessed in safety and be met with care and acceptance and curiosity. It's as though the shame oxidizes and starts to melt in that very moment, in real time. And all of the tension patterns, the holding, the constrictions that have kept this shame story hidden, start to breathe a little bit more expansively right then and there. So what am I talking about when I reference these shame stories, these hidden parts of ourselves? I'm guessing that even just hearing that, there's something in your own experience that is surfacing for you. And we all have some version of this. Everybody has some version or even multiple versions of this. Things that we carry shame around, that we contract around, that we work to keep hidden about ourselves. And it really doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you have or haven't done in your life. There's going to be something that wraps itself in shame. It might be something that you have done in your life that you feel ashamed of, something that you have done that's been out of alignment with your values. Maybe it's something that you haven't done and you feel shame about the fact that you haven't done or achieved or accomplished this thing. It might be shame around some aspect of your identity, your sexuality, your heritage, your physical appearance. It might be shame around some aspect of the background that you come from. You might have embarrassment around the privilege that you come from and fear that others might resent you or misunderstand you because of the privileges in your background. By the same token, you might experience a sense of shame and needing to hide the lack that you come from, the lacking in the background or upbringing that you have had, and fear that others might judge you negatively because of it. So hopefully what I'm speaking about just demonstrates that no matter who you are, something that is a through thread that ties us all together, as different and unique as we are, is that we all have shame stories. We all have parts of ourselves that we are working, whether consciously or very often unconsciously, to hide these aspects of ourselves. And that hiding takes a toll on us. There is a very real physiology to shame. Sometimes we can see it quite clearly in, someone's scrunched up shoulders or stooped posture, in the way that they are physically contracting around their shame, around the parts of themselves that they fear may be unacceptable to others. Other times it's not as obvious on the outside, but we experience these contractions on the inside, and they can manifest in our lives in such a wide variety of different ways. They can manifest physically in the form of muscle tension, body tension, physical pain, and other types of chronic symptoms. Manifestations of the stress of holding things in, of contracting, of hiding a part of ourselves. This physiology of shame can manifest in how we show up or how we don't fully show up in all different areas of our lives, in our careers, in our creative lives, in our relationships, in our families. This holding and hiding of our shame stories can manifest in not feeling entitled to set boundaries, to state our needs, to show up for to show up for ourselves, to stand up for ourselves, to openly and clearly ask for what we want, to go after the things that we desire in life. And then there's also this kind of double bind that can show up around shame, which is that, we can feel on the one hand just kind of locked into this pattern of hiding parts of ourselves. And then on the other side of that same coin, we can put a heap ton of pressure on ourselves by telling ourselves that the only way that we can free ourselves from this cage of contraction of shame, that the only way to liberate ourselves from it is to shout out our most private, most tender, most delicate stories, to just like shout them out to the whole entire world, to confess ourselves to every single person in our lives, in our professional worlds, in our family. Um, and that can create this even greater layer of tension, because that idea can scare us so much that it places even more tension around this hiding pattern that we are already in. And the truth is, from my experience anyway, my experience both in my own personal life and also in my work with many different types of clients, my experience is that this double bind idea is simply not true. That broadcasting our most tender or fraught stories, areas of shame, areas of fear, broadcasting that to the world is absolutely not the only way to free ourselves from that pattern of contraction and keeping ourselves small. And while sharing our story publicly may be a path to liberation for some people, and for those who find it helpful, that's absolutely wonderful. If you're a person who feels genuinely drawn to share your story, and that is part of your path to releasing the tension that constricts you, go for it. That's wonderful. And it's not the only path available to you. And I think that for most people, and in so many situations, that's actually not the pathway to loosening those constrictions. It's oftentimes a pathway to just greater overwhelm and pressure. The truth that I have seen again and again and again, and yes, both in my own personal life and in the work that I feel so privileged to get to do with clients, what I have seen so many times is that oftentimes we just need the safety of being met in our place of shame or fear, sometimes just by one person that you feel safe enough with to let that part of yourself be revealed and be met with safety, with connection, with humanity, with curiosity and support. And sometimes then being met in that way by one person gives your nervous system the permission it needs to then move one step beyond that one person and share it with another, and perhaps then with another, or perhaps to simply leave it there. Perhaps that one experience of being met gives your nervous system the permission it needs to then meet yourself with that softening, with that empathy, with that acceptance that then little by little starts to unbraid that tightly woven pattern of constriction and holding and tension. And when that softening begins to take place, I have seen the most incredible, life altering transformations transpire. I mean, that really is another huge joy of the work that I get to do, is seeing these incredible um, forms of alchemy that take place in people's lives when these holding patterns begin to soften. I've seen a client who did not think that they deserved to be a parent because of their shame story. I have seen that person step into parenting joyfully and co-lead a thriving, blossoming family. I have seen a client who did not think that they deserved to take up space with their own authority in their workplace. And I have seen as their softening began to take place, I have seen them step into their inner knowing, into their authority, step into an open-chested, open-hearted posture in the work that they do and love, and seen them be promoted to partner and then be promoted again when they actually left the firm they were working at and took a position as partner at an even bigger firm that was more aligned with the work that they do. I have seen a client whose shame story was telling them that if they ever shared the true story of their upbringing, that they would be rejected and unloved. And I've seen them put that story into words on the written page in the form of a published book, and then receive message after message from readers telling them that their story had set those readers free. And these are just a handful. These are just a handful of stories. I've seen a client who felt that they, because of their shame story, were not entitled to state their needs at a toxic job that they felt trapped in. And I have seen them leave that job and start their own business doing something that they love and feel purposeful and passionate about. Um, it's just so incredible to see the unraveling and then blossoming power of simply allowing a story that has been hidden and that has woven itself into these patterns of contraction and staying small in one's life. Just simply that act of allowing the story to surface within a safe relationship and be met with warmth, it never ceases to blow my mind, the ripple effects that can happen, sometimes gradually, sometimes quickly. It really, really varies. So my invitation to you, dear listener, if you're listening to what I've shared here today and there's something inside of you that's kind of tickling or gnawing at you from the inside saying, this is me. There is this part of me that I have still not revealed to another person and possibly not haven't revealed it completely to myself. Maybe this is the first time you are contemplating this type of thing. Maybe you have already peeled back so many layers of the onion. You've been in therapy, you've been in coaching, you've been doing all kinds of work, and yet there is still another layer that is making itself known to you that may be wanting some attention, but it feels scary. And that's why it's been hiding there for so long. My gentle and encouraging invitation to you is to find one small, safe enough step to start allowing this part of you to surface. And you can start with allowing it to surface to yourself. You can start with journaling and maybe just writing down one single sentence about it to yourself, and then letting yourself breathe. Letting yourself notice how it feels to allow that little glimpse of it to surface. And then maybe going for a long walk, letting that integrate before you even think about coming back to it. And if you'd like some companionship around this first step, you might write me an email and just simply say, this podcast episode resonated with me, and nothing more. Just that is an act, that is a step toward allowing this part of you to surface and oxidize and begin to soften. You can just send me that email saying, this podcast episode resonated with me. You can write to me at anna@annaholtzman.com. Until next time, dear listener, it's always such a pleasure to be here with you. Sending love and take good care.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor. Hit that follow button so you don't miss a thing and leave a rating or review. It helps more people find this show, and honestly, it makes my day. And if you're looking for more ways to trust yourself and start listening to that gut instinct of yours, come hang out with me on Instagram at Anna_Holtzman. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, trust yourself. You've got this.